Du lytter til en podcast fra Det Norske Teatret.
I'm J.T. Rogers, author of the play Oslo, and this is a bit of the backstory of how my play came to be. One of the frequent surprises about being a playwright is how the process of making one play invariably leads to finding the story for your next play, in ways wholly unexpected. Such is the case of how I came to write Oslo. My last play, Blood and Gifts, is set in the world of espionage during the Soviet-Afghan War of the 1980s. As part of our rehearsal process in New York City, the director and I each contacted real-life experts to come and speak to the cast about the world of the play. I brought in a number of journalists and former spies. My director brought in his friend and neighbor, Tayarad Larson, then a United Nations Special Envoy focused on Lebanon. Larson was complimentary about the play and of great help to the actors. Afterward, my director told me, you should take him out for a drink and ask him about the Oslo Accords. There's an amazing story there. I asked Larson out for a drink and peppered him with questions. He was reticent to speak about himself, but as I pushed, he began to tell me a story that stunned me. I'm embarrassed to tell you that until that moment, I didn't know there was a Norwegian-backed channel, which led to the historic Oslo Accords. Like most Americans, when the breakthrough was announced to the world, I thought Bill Clinton and my government were behind this. In hindsight, the fact that it was called the Oslo Accords and yet I didn't ask what Oslo had to do with it is doubly embarrassing. After our meeting, I began to read everything I could about the Norwegian-backed channel. The more I learned about it, the more certain I was that this was the backdrop against which I would set my next play. I traveled to Oslo on my own and visited Beauregard Manor, the site of many of the channel's secret rounds of negotiations. I interviewed some of the real-life participants and read the memoirs of the Palestinian, Israeli, and Norwegian participants. I traveled throughout the Middle East. The more I learned, the clearer it became that this secret channel remains controversial. To this day, arguments abound about who should be given credit for its execution, who has been unfairly written out of history's narrative, and whether the channel should have ever existed in the first place. Then, after 2 years of preparation, I put all my research aside and wrote a play. That is, a work of historical fiction. Each character on stage is plainly my version of an actual person. Events have been condensed, changed. I have theatricalized and reinvented, all to focus my play on the radical act at the center of the actual Oslo process. In the middle of endless bloodshed and hatred, members of the Israeli government and the PLO chose to sit across from their enemy and see them as human beings. Each side listened to the other and was permanently changed by that listening. I am awed by the personal and political courage that took. It is a moment of history that I do not want forgotten.